Hey everybody, this is Doug with Destiny Has No Secrets, an L5R podcast talking about everything Rakugan, everything Legend of the Five Rings. And today we have with us, again from,
Ginger Jesus.
and we're going to be talking about today honor. We're going to be going over shortly some of the honor mechanics and our thoughts and impressions on it. And for our main topic, we're going to be talking about sportsmanship and etiquette in the L5R community and just general do's and don'ts on how not to be a douchebag, basically.
Yeah,
um,
among the other stuff too, because there's some how there are parts of the L5R community with sportsmanship which I like. It's a much more mature community, and I like to go
mhm.
into that as well and kind of give lip service to the not so bad parts.
Yeah, so to all the Nazi sympathizers out there.
Yeah.
All right, so first, I just want a couple updates on the cast. I apologize for those of you who uh, this week I had a week, so wasn't able to get to the normal editing that I normally do. Um, but I'll be posting that tonight. I'll be doing just cramming all the editing from last week's episode and this week's episode into one night and getting it out there for you. So I apologize for that. I also anticipate. I also recorded some card reviews of the Clan cards that I'll be posting to YouTube. So please check that out, like and subscribe if you like the content and want to see more. And if you want, again, if you want to normally contact us, you'll find all the contact information down in a little box below. And yeah, so I think that's pretty much it. There's nothing else I'm thinking of.
The email competition is still going.
All right, yeah.
Um, Sell us your clan. Give me an email, short email, 100 to 500 words. Uh, this email is for new players. Sell your clan to new players. I want your opinion on why other people should play your clans. I've gotten a couple submissions already. They're really good. I'm really proud of the work that people have put forth for this, but we don't have one for all the clans yet, and I really would like at least one for every clan and multiple for every clan so I can really get the best possible option.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. I didn't know that we actually received it. Is that you got that on the Ginger Jesus, the original, or
Yeah,
what's the
the
email again?
only gingerjesus at gmail.com.
All right, all right, and yeah, and if you you could also send any comments and replies and any if you want to see any certain types of content, send it to our email, certainly at L5RDestinyCast at gmail.com. So,
All right.
all right, so moving on to our first topic, honor. So,
Honor.
honor. All right. So, for those of you who may not have caught the rules mechanics dumps and may not know all the ins and outs of what they've shown us so far, let's go over that real quick in the mechanics. In the honor mechanic, you will win automatically if you well, you'll begin with a starting total family honor, an honor value that will be dictated by your stronghold that you put into play. Right, and we think that's probably going to be roughly between 10 and 12. The Lion, I believe, one had a 12 honor, and I think the Crane one had 11. Right, and at any
That's
point,
something like that, yeah.
yeah, so it's going to be roughly around there. You're going to start the game at roughly around 10 or so honor, and if you ever at any point drop to 0 honor, then you automatically lose, and if you ever end up at 25 honor, you automatically win. So there's the two alternate conditions in addition to breaking all the provinces. Now every turn, you're going to bid for cards. Instead of normally just drawing a static number of cards like in other card games, you actually bid how many cards you want to draw. So, and that will be a number between 1 and 5. And the difference, the person who bid higher on the total, right, will pay the difference to the person who paid bid the lowest, right? After that's done, you will draw that many cards. So say I drew 5 cards and Ginger Jesus drew one or a bid one card or bid I bid 5 and he bid 1, I would pay him 4 of my honor, right? So exchanging the honor to him, and I would draw 5 cards, and then he would draw 1 card, right? In addition to that, whenever there's a state called honored or dishonored, right? Which is an effect that you can play onto character or give a character. And whenever if an honored personality dies, they gain 1 honor.
I
Like
think it's that they when they leave play.
yeah, yeah. Well, actually, I don't think they actually distinguish between that. Like they just say most of the cards I've seen so far either say sacrifice or discarded. So I don't think they actually have a killed state like
I
like they did in the old game. Um,
yeah, I could swear it was like when the fate runs out and they leave game, you get that honor as well.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So whenever they leave play, right? Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly what you're saying. I think you're absolutely right in that. I just don't think they actually have a dead state. It just means whenever they leave play, you gain that 1 honor.
Yep.
And the vice versa, I believe it's you lose 1 honor when a dishonored personality leaves play, but I could be wrong on that. Um, I'm trying to remember because they only showed us the one little card and it was really small, so I didn't look.
Yeah.
Um, but regardless, piggybacking off of last week's Crane previews, we've seen already how at least one clan's going to kind of go about achieving honor, and we had some further thoughts on the honor system. So, why don't you kick us
Well,
off? Like, what are
not
your
only.
thoughts? Hmm?
Sorry, finish your thought.
Oh no, so why don't you just go ahead and kick us off, Ginger, on what your thoughts on the honor system and how that will see play, or just generally what you think.
So at this point, the two clans we're seeing the most cards for because they're the clans that they've decided to, give us first, Crane and Lion. Both very honorable clans, probably the two most honorable clans. We end up with like one of the Lion cards we saw said something about honoring as when they win battles they gain honor.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of Lion clans I'm seeing and stuff like that. So
Hmm.
you've got a lot of really good honor producers coming out of those two clans, and I'm seeing in my future very savvy Crane Lion players who realize that they can sacrifice the honor victory and just keep their hands really full without really needing to sacrifice too much.
So basically, honor as a mechanic to gain card advantage, and using that
Yeah.
mechanic to keep their hands full so they can win battles, right?
Yeah, which is kind of having me a little worried as a crab and a scorpion player. Uh, we haven't seen a whole lot of spoils for those two clans, and I'm really wondering how it is that those two clans can keep their hands full when going up against high honor clans
Hmm.
that aren't necessarily looking for an honor victory. Because I don't see Lion Clan going for an honor victory. I see them sacrificing the honor they gain to get more cards
Hmm.
to walk all over my provinces.
Yeah, and like on another thing is like they sort of have this sort of pass, not so much with Lion, but certainly with Crane. As you pointed out last week, they kind of have this passive. They can just flood the board full of guys, and they can passively gain this honor if they're not in a winning position, right? Because their guys will just enter and leave play, right, really rather
Yeah.
quickly, and so they can afford to kind of gain board advantage, right? Maybe not investing as much into fate and keeping their guys around as long because they're going to gain honor with those guys anyway, as long as they have effects that honor them. Um, so there's kind of like this advantage of where they can kind of cut their costs, whereas a crab personality, they're not as concerned with gaining honor because they don't have as access to as many effects that honor their personalities. So they're going to be investing more into fate and maybe bigger guys and maybe more value personalities.
Mhm.
So
But that means my secondary hand, sorry, my primary hand as a crab player probably isn't going to have nearly as many options in it because I'm now having to really worry about whether or not I have the honor to pay for those cards.
mhm. Well, I think
Um,
okay, go ahead.
yeah, I'm getting honor because my opponent is giving it to me.
Hmm.
But if you're going up against a savvy player, even as a crane or a lion, they're going to find ways to keep your honor down. if it's possible with those two clans. I don't know. We haven't seen every card in the game yet, but
Well, I
it's
think
got me a tad bit worried.
yeah, it is worrying, right? But well, I was thinking about this when there was actually somebody who brought this up on the forums when the honor mechanic was spoiled for us. The draw mechanic, I should say.
Mhm.
So like the one thing that was pointed out is like, yes, they can do that. They can just use passive honor effects to gain cards. But to basically they can gain these honor and then use that honor to draw cards, like you were saying. But the swings, if you look at it, how much effort is required to actually honor a personality. So let's assume Crane is probably has the easiest time, right? Because they have a card that straight out honors a guy, right? They
Yeah,
can actively do it, right? Whereas Lion have a conditional effect that means they have to win a battle or they win a conflict, right? Um,
yeah,
which might be a little bit tougher because they have to actually expend cards and resources to do that, right? Or they may have to depending on what the board state's like. So I think really what it comes down to is they may have this easy time, but they have to expend resources to do that. And the balance is you have to consistently be bringing out these honored effects in order to allow yourself to draw, right? Because if you don't, then that tempo swing, because that's a 4 honor hit if you're drawing 5 and they're bidding 1.
yeah.
You know, that's a pretty big swing. That could cost you an entire turn's worth of effort. You
That
know.
being said, I don't see that happening every round either. I'm not going to bid one card every round.
Yeah,
It's
I
just
think,
not going to happen.
but I
I'm
think
going to need cards in my hand. If you start bidding five, I'm going to start bidding
But
five.
I think that will be the kind of decision point for the player who may not have a board state in which they can draw a lot of cards, but
Hmm.
is not an honorable clan like Crab, right?
Yeah.
They'll look at that. You'll look at their board and go, okay, how much effort have they spent this turn? Do they have those cards in hand? Are they going to be able to honor a lot of guys? Okay, well if they don't, then next turn I'm just going to bid 1 because they'll want to if they want to keep up this momentum and they do end up bidding high. I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily a good play, but like it's you see what I'm saying, right?
Oh yeah.
Where you basically that bidding mechanic becomes a decision point. Do if you bid 1 right now, will that tip that balance? Will that undo that momentum that they created for themselves? You know?
Yeah, and it's the kind of thing I won't know until I play, and it's also the kind of thing I won't know until I see the cards that I'll be playing.
Oh, absolutely.
It
Yeah.
was it was just one of those random thoughts I had today while I was stuck in traffic because I drive past a military base.
Oh, nice. So you just got, yeah, I used to deliver past that. Yeah, I used to drive down that freeway like every day doing
Yeah.
deliveries, so I understand. But yeah, certainly it's something to keep an eye on, right?
Hmm.
And it will be interesting to see what they give clans like Crab or I would say Unicorn maybe because Unicorn can kind of do honor, but it doesn't really necessarily focus on it in my experience. And it doesn't seem like they're going that way anyway. And I think one of the other things that we have yet to see is the value. Like how much how much value is each personality going to have in the terms of effects, right? Because the Crane obviously have a lot of passive effects. So when I was doing this card review, I kind of noticed that they have kind of some passive effects here, mostly just stuff to kind of that trigger off of them being honor or create this passive condition. How much like I can imagine Crab are not going to be that passive, right?
Well, we've seen a couple crab cards. I've seen like two. Jade Tetsubo, which I don't remember what it does off the top of my head because I have a terrible memory, and the Defender, who I'm in love with. I'm in love with this card.
Yeah.
If this card is defending, then your opponent can't bow it or send it home.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and it's just it's one of those generic faceless no name personality cards.
That's pretty strong actually, because there's a lot of bow
It,
effects in the game.
it's kind of awesome, and I'm really hoping to see what else they do for the crab.
Yeah.
But as
I.
I was saying,
Mhm.
if I'm playing crab and I'm expecting lots of combat and lots of battles, and I need to keep cards in my hand,
Mhm.
unless my opponent is bidding high as well, I'm slowly but surely going to hit a decision point where I'm sitting here with two honor, two cards in my hand. My
Mhm.
opponent's got maybe even just eight honor, but a full hand.
Yeah, because they've
Uh,
just gained that honor and they decide to spend it on card draw.
yeah.
Right. Well, I'm looking at the opposite thing, really. I'm looking at not necessarily a huge hand. I'm looking at them just being able to flood the guy. And that came off of your comment. I really started thinking about it. It's like that's an pretty like your guys just making your guys disposables, put them out is like sheer efficiency. Just like
Hmm.
who cares if my personality's out for 2 or 3 turns? I don't want to spend fate unless I absolutely have to. Like just bring that guy, honor him out as quickly as possible, get the honor out of there, and then get him out of the way.
Yeah.
That's an I don't know if that's an effective strategy, but that's kind of where I'm starting with my mentality when I start thinking about the strategies that Crane can bring to bear. And as we go on and we see more cards, obviously that changes. The one thing I'm kind of curious about, the one big question mark in the room, is to me is what they're going to give Scorpion to counterbalance a lot of these passive honor gains. You know,
I'm really hoping they get card draw mechanics. I really hope to get card draw mechanics.
yeah. Well,
Or dishonor. I mean, they're going to have dishonor mechanics, and if you keep your opponent's honor low, then they have to make that same decision point I have to worry about as a crab player,
hmm
which I think is really going to affect clans that are not Crane or Lion.
yeah.
Crane in this with this bidding mechanic, not talking about cards that we don't know about yet, just
hmm
knowing that they are really good at keeping other people's honor down. I
hmm
really think, apart from those two clans, they're going to do a really good job of making sure that your opponent is constantly having to make that decision, which I'm looking forward to
Yeah.
because
I.
this is the first time I've ever decided to actually like go gung ho Scorpion in the card game.
hmm
Except for I built a Scorpion military deck out of the second to last Learn to Play kit before the game went belly up with the Towers of the Yogo,
Yeah.
which was a broken
Oh yeah.
deck I
That.
designed after. I think I had like a full bottle of Jameson and all my cards, and I just kind of went, I wonder what I can do with this. And I took every character I could afford with just the box, filled the deck with 32 guys, and that event that said your dead guys come back as ancestor personalities, and and it's the one that when all my guys have bow this guy to bow another guy, and I essentially just sent them out and let them die over and over and over and over again with an endless wave of guys, and my opponent couldn't handle it. And then that event came up, and I'm just like, so many guys, and
Well,
that's the kind of deck that gets you punched in the face.
yeah. Like I don't know. Like I think there's gonna be a lot of. I hope that they that
I love telling
L5R.
that story.
I
I
know.
love telling that story.
I hope L5R becomes the game where you can play a deck that normally in other games would get you kicked out of the tournament or something like that, as far as like
Yeah.
how negative it is, but everybody else is cool with
Oh,
it.
no, every time I took that deck against somebody who knew how to play in a tournament, like every time I took that deck against the tournament level deck, it always just got wasted. But for casual play with me and my friends, and we're
Yeah,
all playing just kind of decks that we kind of created just because, it did pretty well, and I was really
yeah.
proud of it. But I mean, it was just a joke.
I've been
That's all it was.
I'm
I
telling
sat down with it and told my opponent, this deck is a joke. It's just for fun.
yeah.
And usually they laughed while it happened. Like suddenly you had 20 scorpion ancestors, and you're like,
This is
okay,
there's a
hey, why
point
not?
there's a point where this became
Let's do
stupid.
this.
I just came off the back of like playing like 2 years of Netrunner, and that game might as well be labeled "How to Be a Dickbag with Your Friends and have fun." doing it, you
Yeah.
know. And they're still nice to you too, because every match in that game is like, you know, you make a deck that basically is like, how can I make my opponent's experience the worst experience possible? You know, like,
Oh, I'm happy I never played that game.
you know, it's
But
fun though.
yeah.
Everybody has a blast with it. So like, Netrunner aside, but you know, I hope that the mechanics they have here aren't too negative. That being said, Scorpion. Going back to our honor thing, you know, I think I'm really concerned about if dishonor is only losing one personality. You only lose one honor when a personality is discarded when they're dishonorable. I'm really concerned about the amount of effort that's going to be necessary to make people dishonored, right?
Hmm.
Because it seems to me with passive honor effects, I wasn't so much concerned about it until I saw the lion card this week. That actively, because I think it's the first real card that we've seen that says gain one
Didn't
or
it?
gain honor in some way. They have a card that says
Didn't
uh yeah,
It
go ahead.
might, I might be remembering wrong. It might be a Crane character. Doesn't one of the line cards they spoiled honor the people he's with?
Oh
Or
yeah.
was that the?
Yeah, there's a bunch of
Yeah,
honor effects that I noticed, but like there's one card effect that I've seen, and we'll go over this when we go over the line previews.
yeah.
Is that there's one card in there that has gain one honor that actually has as text gain one honor, right? And that's the first card that we've really seen that does something like that. So I'm kind of
Hmm.
concerned if they print those effects, the momentum they're creating for honor decks. And I just don't want to see the game turn into honor versus dishonor turn into you know, one gigantic stall, you know, where it basically goes to time every single round in a tournament. That's my
Yeah.
biggest consideration. I'd like to see Dishonor players and Honor players both be able to go to tournament and play their decks.
My
Um,
devil's advocate for that problem and why I don't think it'll be too much of an issue is that almost all of the honor and dishonor effects, well, we haven't seen many dishonor effects, but almost all the honor effects we've seen require combat.
yeah, that's true. So they do require interaction, like to some
So
degree.
So unless you're playing that the Crane Solitaire deck idea I kind of came up with, which I realized after thinking about it that that couldn't really work as well because if you were trying to play the passive honor game with your friend and you were
Hmm.
just sitting there, I would just start bidding one.
Oh yeah, yeah. You'll stall their progress, right? It
I'll
gives you
stall
age.
their progress.
Yeah, it gives you agency over. That's what I meant when I was saying that it gives you agency over the other person's win victory condition. You have the ability to affect it to some degree, unlike the old game where you
Yeah,
didn't. Where you just basically were forced to sit there and take
you
it.
can attack and hope you had better cards than they did, and then even if you won, they would just
Yeah, yeah.
next turn gain the honor
I
again.
I think Crane will probably want to throw one political conflict a turn. I mean,
Mhm.
some decks will be able to do both, but I think they're really going to be like turtle up for their military condition or military conflicts, and then when it comes to political, they'll swing in hard, right? Um, it really seems like a lot of they don't get any super benefits from being in military conditions. It seems like most of their stuff is just made to put there to kind of keep military conflicts away from them, which is
Well,
not in
they're
the Face Clan theme, right?
the big military theme I've seen from the Crane is I'm gonna send everybody home but two guys,
Yeah.
yours and mine. So it's what was it? Encircling terrain from the old game.
Oh, that is encircling terrain.
Yeah. So
Oh my
basically
gosh.
they just have encircling terrain open at all times.
As a duel. Oh my god, that's so sick. I just
Yeah.
now realize that. I haven't played the old game in a
Yeah.
while, so wow. Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
wow.
It's like a blitz deck with sneak attack. Cranes always have encircling terrain.
That's
It's
pretty
just
good.
their thing.
That's pretty cool.
But yeah, I was thinking about it, and I've decided I really like this honor mechanic versus the old honor mechanic.
Yeah, yeah, and I think they've really achieved one of those benchmarks in my. I was really worried about how they're gonna do honor and dishonor in the new
Hmm.
game, and I think they kind of are hitting those points that I was looking at, that expectation I was looking at. of not what should be done, but like of fixing things. I wanted to. That was the one of my things. They have to fix this. Because it was not working uh, in a lot of ways. In the old games. So, and they're doing that
Yeah,
soon.
now it, honor no longer seems like like the ethereal concept. Back when I used to teach people how to play the old game,
Mm-hmm.
that's what it's called now, the old game as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm.
When I used to teach people how to play the old game, I never even introduced the honor mechanics for their first game. It was never even part of it.
Now you have to.
And now you have to because it's part of the core game. It's not the secondary aspect which you and your opponent can choose to ignore,
Yeah.
which we did. Because I'm trying to teach them how to play a very complex, very intricate game. This seems to simplify it while still making it important, which
And
is
and I
pretty
think that's
pretty intense balance.
I think that's really going back to the original design. Like the first book, the book in the Emerald Edition starters that I got, they used to have a win condition. This is mostly for new people. I'm pretty sure you remember it, but they used to have a win, not win condition, but an honor mechanic that when you didn't perform certain etiquettes at the table, you gained or lost honor. Do you remember that? Right?
No,
They had
me and
that
my
back
friends.
in the book as an optional rule. If you didn't bow to your opponent at the beginning of the game, if you didn't bow to them, I believe
You
at the
have to
end of the game.
remember.
Hmm? Yeah,
You have to remember. I can't learn rules by reading them. I need
yeah.
someone to sit down and teach me how to play a
It
game.
was
It's a
they
thing that's wired into my brain wrong. So my friends never taught me that.
Yeah, they had them in the back of the book as an option. They phased them out like real quick too. I think as soon as they moved over to WotC, they got rid of
That
those
yeah.
rules. But yeah, they were. It was really interesting. They had the like it was only like two or three things. I can't remember. I remember one of them was bowing to your opponent at the beginning of the game, out of respect, and could gain you an honor or lose you an honor if you didn't do it. Um,
Huh.
so yeah, and like
Nope,
that was
never
like
did that.
the idea was they have this honor mechanic, and combined with the clan loyalty, you have these mechanics, and it kind of reflects in the way you play, right, as a person. And I think them bringing that focus back to honor and in the mechanics, and you're relating it to draw and relating it the rings in the game, and just basically making a lot of these more decisions about honor. Doesn't
Hmm.
do what that optional rule did necessarily, but it kind of is a harken back to that sort of theming and making the game more about that concept of honor, because that's what really makes L5RDestiny universe unique, right?
Yeah.
Is the entire concept.
How it gives personality to the clans in ways that I don't think would exist without it.
Yeah, yeah. And not only that, but like it's kind of like what brings it uniquely to the players when they start really playing and getting into the game, especially if they're into the fluff
Hmm.
of the storyline of the game. They kind of start, not, I wouldn't say identifying, but like start kind of generally behaving better at tournaments, or in casual groups and things like that. So
Which makes it a great segue to topic number two.
you noticed that, right? It's like, here's a segue.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm just gonna put that
That was a great one.
segue right there.
Don't trip over the segue. It's a big one. That's a big segue over there.